This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Seven people arrested in connection with Easter Sunday bomb blasts in Sri Lanka. Unmanned drones reported to be carrying out airstrikes over Tripoli. And Ethiopian Airlines plans to become a $25 billion company by 2035. Hello and welcome to CGTN. This is Africa Live and I'm Karen Roberts in Nairobi. Also coming up in the programme. Northern Ugandan Centre looks to train victims of LRA war. And inaugural Manga cosplay 3-day festival kicks off in Senegal. We start with our continued coverage of the attacks in Sri Lanka. 7 people have been arrested in connection with the Easter Sunday bomb blasts. 3 churches and 4 hotels were hit in a series of explosions. More than 200 people from at least 6 countries have been killed and at least 450 have been wounded. An 8th blast is said to have claimed 3 lives.
The extent of the Easter Day bomb blast at 3 Sri Lankan churches and 3 luxury hotels was unprecedented, following a lull in major attacks since the end of the civil war 10 years ago.
I see this as a serious situation aimed at destabilizing the country and the economy. I strongly condemn this attack aimed at religious institutions and some hotels in the capital.
With more than 200 dead and over 400 injured, ambulances raced in to carry the injured out as family members wailed at the news of their loved ones falling victims to the tragedy.
At about 9 a.m. today, I was asked to take my ambulance to the Kochikade church because I was informed that there's a big blast in Kochikade church. So we went there and we whoever there, the casualties, we transported them to the National Hospital, and then we have been advised to come to the Shangri-La.
I heard the explosion and then the roof fell on us. We took the children and ran out from the rear door. But when I came to the hospital, I saw my brother-in-law and son on the ground.
The 3 hotels hit were the Shangri-La Colombo, Kingsbury Hotel in Colombo and the Cinnamon Grand Colombo.
The first explosion went off around 8:10 a.m. The second explosion went off soon after, and all the windows broke.
Video footage from the Shangri-La Colombo showed smashed windows and covered bodies in front of the facade of the hotel. The explosions, some of which officials said were suicide bomb attacks, led to an immediate clampdown, with the government declaring a curfew at 6 p.m. on Sunday to 6 a.m. on Monday. The government also blocked access to most major social media and messaging sites.
Whenever this happens in any country, you find a downward trend. In fact, you will find that tourism will get affected in our country. For some time, that happens in every country. And that was one of the rising sectors. Similarly, there will be initially some outflow of funds. So those are some of the issues that will come up.
No one has claimed responsibility for the attacks in a country which was at war for decades with Tamil separatists until 2009, during which time bomb blasts in the capital were common. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
World leaders have been sending their condolences and support to Sri Lanka. The country's former president also visited the injured in hospital.
In Sri Lanka and around the world, leaders are expressing their sadness and disbelief at the bomb attacks. In the region, India and Pakistan strongly condemned the attacks, with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi calling the acts barbaric. European Council President Donald Tusk sent a message of solidarity to Sri Lankans. French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Theresa May also sent out their condolences. Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith had 2 of his churches hit in the attacks. He put forth a passionate plea to authorities.
I also like to ask the government to hold a very impartial, strong inquiry and find out who is responsible behind this act, and also to punish them mercilessly, because only animals can behave like that.
The country's former president visited victims in hospital. He called for unity amidst the tragic event.
At this time, we must forget religious disputes, race issues, and party differences and unite and behave carefully.
Messages of support continue to pour in as Sri Lanka deals with the aftermath of the attacks. Astatal, CGTN.
Well, we are now joined by Tiraj Wikram Singhe, the Executive Director of China Radio International FM. He has the latest from Colombo for us. Thank you very much for joining us, Tiraj. 7 suspects have been arrested after this series of bombings, which left more than 200 people dead and at least 450 wounded. What is the latest you have?
The latest situation is the same. There are around 220 dead bodies, and there are more than 470 casualties, and there are maybe some others in the private hospitals as well. That's the current situation.
So you're telling us that it has gone up. It's now 220 deaths and 450 casualties. Sri Lanka has been relatively safe for the last 10 years. How is the government and the city reacting to this string of attacks?
Actually, all the citizens are confused about the situation, because currently there's no issue with Muslims, Catholics and Buddhists. There are no issue with these religions in Sri Lanka. So it's a really terrible situation in Sri Lanka, because everybody is confused. Even the government is trying their best to control the situation. So I think now it will be end after this night. So they have put police curfew until the morning. So because they don't want to have an issue among the religion situation. So that's what they are doing at the moment.
And Tiraj, do we know who is responsible for the attack yet? There are reports of intelligence indicating that there was a plan to attack churches 10 days ago.
Yeah, they have some information, but officially they have not released any news at the moment. But they have got 7 suspects, that's confirmed. So they will do the needful things and they will do the inquiry. And definitely, I think tomorrow they will give us some clear definition about who's going to be responsible for this incident.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. That was Tiraj Wikram Singhe there, the Executive Director of China Radio International FM in Colombo. Moving on to other news now, eyewitnesses are reporting the use of unmanned drones carrying out airstrikes over Tripoli. If confirmed, it suggests a new level of sophistication in the battle for Libya's capital. The UN has warned weapons are flooding into both sides from abroad. CGTN's Guy Henderson reports now from eastern Libya, the home of General Khalifa Haftar's attacking force.
The UN-backed government has launched a counter-offensive against Khalifa Haftar's forces in the south of Tripoli overnight. Fierce fighting we're getting reports of. This is all going on longer than I think most members of the Eastern forces imagined it would, and that has thrown up the question amongst a lot of commentators about whether the East can hold this together, hold its force together for a longer fight. We've come to a military academy where commanders here are trying to transform what initially was a quite loose group of militias and civilians into what they see now as an emerging professional army. And I have to say, from what we've seen, there is discipline here, there are drills. This is not a force anymore that sees itself as any kind of militia that can simply have its loyalty bought but as a professional army. The next question, of course, what is the intention of that army? Because there are skeptics who wonder whether General Khalifa Haftar's real aim is not to hand back power to a civilian authority once he has gained stability across Libya, but to use the tools of this professional army to hold on to power. That is something that the LNA here fiercely denies. It is something that in the last few days the United States has decided to take Haftar at his word on, but it remains at the moment an open question. Guy Henderson, CGTN, Eastern Libya.
The chairman of the African Union Commission, Mossi Faki, has met the president of the Transitional Military Council of Sudan and representatives from opposition parties to discuss the required assistance to the country during transition. The AU chairperson said that Sudan is a key country in Africa and appealed for all parties to agree on the transitional period. The president of the political committee of TMC, Zain Al-Abidine, said the council is tasked with the responsibility to provide a conducive environment for the political forces to rule democratically. This month, Sudanese Defence Minister Ibn Auf overthrew Bashir's regime and established the Transitional Military Council following months of protests in the country. Arab League foreign ministers are holding an urgent meeting in Cairo. The member states are to discuss how to react to the so-called the deal of the century on Palestine, due to be announced by US President Donald Trump next month. Yasser Hakim has more.
The Arab countries have called for the urgent meeting to discuss what they say are concerning information from Washington about the so-called deal of the century. The deal is meant to create peace between the Palestinians and Israelis. US President Donald Trump has not announced the details of the proposed agreement. However, unofficial information released have pointed towards two sticking issues. First, the deal could fall short of declaring Jerusalem as the capital of a two-state solution, as per the UN resolutions. Second, that the US might ask Palestinian refugees to concede their right to return to their homes in historical Palestine. They were driven from their homes in 1948 to make way for the new state of Israel. Apart from the deal of the century, the Arab member states will also discuss a loan request from Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to face the acute financial crisis in the Palestinian territories. Yas Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
We're going to a short break now. Don't go away. Lots more to come, including Ethiopian Airlines plans to become a $25 billion company by 2035. And Northern Ugandan Centre looks to train victims of LRA war.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Ethiopian Airlines has announced that it's planning to become a $25 billion company by 2035 as part of its profitable growth strategy. The airline's management is preparing to unveil a new development plan dubbed Vision 2035, a revised version of Vision 2025, which is said to have been completed ahead of time. CGTN's Kiran Chawla has more.
Ethiopian Airlines' new plan is said to be unprecedented and will transform the airliner for it to be placed at the top of the biggest actors in the global aviation business. The Ethiopian flag carrier is gearing up to create a $25 billion company through its soon-to-be announced plan dubbed Vision 2035. ET Group CEO Tolga Gabramarim said, and I quote, "Now that Vision 2025 has been achieved way ahead of time, there is a need to come up with a new and an ambitious plan. And the new 15 years plan has aims of transforming the airliner and make it a multi-billion dollars company," end of quote. According to reports, and in just about 8 years' time, Ethiopian Airlines has grown threefolds. That is in terms of revenue, number of passengers, fleet size, number of international destinations, and cargo size. And when Ethiopian Airlines started implementing Vision 2025 in 2010, it was just a $1.3 billion company. This year, it is assumed to worth $4.1 billion. Group Jara CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
20 years of civil war with the Lord's Resistance Army has left many people in northern Uganda with no skills or training to build a future. CGTN's Daniel Arapmoy looks at efforts to help young men and women gain hands-on skills.
This is Gulu War-Affected Center, a place that has become a beacon of hope for hundreds of young men and women who were directly or indirectly affected by the LRA war. Jacqueline Ageno-Roch is one of the young women at the center. She proudly shares with us what she has achieved during our study here.
I learned many things. One, braiding, the one I'm doing, 3-3, they call it like that. The next thing, weaving, that you use needle, thread, and extension weave.
Many of these young men and women belong to a generation of youth who have missed out on school due to the devastating effects of the conflict north of Uganda. Some say they lost their parents, while others their siblings in the violence. Thousands others were forced into combat, child marriage or sexual exploitation, and remain haunted by the memories of the war. Charles Akera is a 22-year-old who was born in captivity following the abduction of his mother and father. Akera says his father was killed in the jungles of northern Uganda during the war. For now, he remains an orphan in need of assistance. Despite the fact that his father is long gone, Akera, just like many others here, has not totally lost hope. He has enrolled at the center to learn hairdressing with the hope of earning some little money in the near future to better himself.
After gaining skills here, I would love to continue with my education and acquire even better skills.
Without an education or vocational skills, they struggle to gain traction as they enter adulthood, despite being eager to move beyond the past. But many of these war-affected youths are not taking any chances, giving in their all to learn life skills for a brighter future. Gulu War-Affected Training Center is focusing on these youth with particular attention on girls with the aim of improving their living conditions and increase their independence through education and training.
The Gulu War-Affected Training Center was set up to provide healing to hundreds of youths traumatized as a result of the war.
The center has expanded. It now covers as far as South Sudan, a country that also bore the brunt of the Lord's Resistance Army's violence.
These are people who have been affected by the war in southern Sudan. So when they come here, we also train them on different skills.
For now, they continue to help not only the youth, but also women affected by the war, equipping them with hands-on skills like tailoring to help them earn a living. Daniel Arapmoy, CGTN, Northern Uganda.
Moving now to the arts, where a festival of manga, gaming and cosplay has kicked off in Senegal. The inaugural 3-day event presents a platform for hundreds of young people to dive into the world of animated characters, comics and video games with unique African themes.
Local manga lovers showed up to celebrate, participate and compete in cosplay and video games. Many upcoming African artists took the ideal opportunity to showcase their work.
This is an opportunity for me to meet my audience and also to present the first volume of my comic book CD. It's about a young Senegalese coming from the village to study at the university. There are more projects going on, and all of them are 100% African comics.
In the past, finding manga art in West Africa was difficult. However, there's a growing fan base, especially in Senegal. Many young Senegalese are interested in enjoying African stories in animation format. According to the organizers, the festival aims to provide a platform for African homegrown manga culture.
The objective is to organize in each country of the sub-region a festival like this once a year. So basically it's trying to find all the manga culture that is generally called otakus that are little neglected by many people. Otakus are very popular in Europe, Asia and North America. In Africa, there are many manga lovers, but they are not all of them well known.
This inaugural festival showcases the evolution of African artists and the dawn of a new chapter in African storytelling. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
In Senegal, the vulcanizer profession is traditionally reserved for men. Vulcanizer Batarame Ndiaye, a 50-year-old woman, managed to break this taboo.
In her workshop located in Rufisque, a suburb of Senegalese capital Dakar, Arame Ndiaye repairs flat tires and pumps in air in the tires of trucks, motorcycles and bicycles with the assistance of her 6 apprentices. She has been doing this job with great passion for about 30 years.
It was my late husband who taught me this job. He himself was a vulcanizer. I began to practice vulcanization when I realized that my husband's income was not enough to cover all the expenses of the house. As a result, I decided to assist my husband and become his secretary to monitor the accounts of the workshop. Seeing my commitment, my late husband trained me in vulcanization. It all began there.
Her neighbors call her Taya Arame, but to her customers, she's the Iron Lady. At Taya Arame, the rates vary between $1 and $4 depending on the type of work done. Over the years, Arame has proven her skills and advanced knowledge in the field of vulcanization.
I have known Aram for 5 years. When I want to repair or inflate the tires of my car, I come to her workshop. Her work is rapid and satisfactory. I call her the Iron Lady because she competes with men.
I came to check if there's enough air in the tires of my vehicle. For a lady, doing this job is not really easy. Given her age and weight, she manages to be as good as a man. Her bravery and courage are to be commended.
A mother of 6, Taya Arame balances work and family life with the help of her oldest daughter. In her 30-year career, she has trained about 20 vulcanizers, and her ambition now is to modernize her workshop. Sadiq Shaban, CGTN.
Delegations from more than 60 countries are arriving in the Chinese coastal city of Qingdao to mark the 70th anniversary of China's Navy. Warships from Russia, Australia, Bangladesh, Brunei and Japan docked earlier today. Events begin on Monday and will last for most of the week, including a review on Tuesday of the Chinese and foreign fleets. CGTN's reporter Tang Bo has more from the scene.
The port of Qingdao is designed for civil and commercial purposes, where there are areas for passenger liners and container ships. To welcome the foreign navies, 4 of 5 container terminals here have been cleared and renovated. Today, in total, 16 foreign naval vessels will dock here, getting ready for the upcoming celebrations and the International Fleet Review, just like this one right next to me, Indian Navy guided missile destroyer Kolkata. Equipped with state-of-the-art weapons, the Indian destroyer has sensors to address threats in all dimensions of naval warfare. Its participation has been widely considered as part of the continuing efforts to step up bilateral military ties between China and India. Republic of Korea frigate Gyeonggi, Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force destroyer Suzuki have also made their stop here at Pier 7. Many Korean people working and living in Qingdao came here to welcome the frigate from their motherland. While on the other side at Pier 3, the Russian ambassador to China is expected to welcome the Russian naval vessels, frigate Admiral Gorshkov, tug ship Nikolai Tikhar, and logistic support ship Elbrus. Organizing International Fleet Review is a unique ceremonial activity of navies, showing to the world the participants' firm determination to safeguard peace and seek development with joint efforts. Tambo, CGTN, Qingdao, Shandong Province.